This video is sponsored by Audiio. While some directors like sticking to an established way of working, Spike Lee is a filmmaker with a distinctive and constantly evolving technique which constantly plays with form and style. While many of his films are bound by common elements such as the role of the media, racism, contemporary city life, and political issues, the format which he uses to tell these stories on screen can change with each project, and sometimes even with each scene. In this video I'll break down Lee's approach to shooting 3 films at 3 increasing budget levels: She's Gotta Have It, Do the Right Thing, and The Five Bloods, to identify the visual storytelling decisions he makes and how he allocates resources. After completing his master's degree thesis film at the Tisch School of Arts, Spike Lee set out to make his first feature. I got to go to a couple of film festivals around the world, but they were unable to generate me any work, not even an after-school special. So that just cemented in my mind what I always thought all along, that I would have to go out and do it alone, not rely on anyone else. As raising funds for a first feature is difficult, he came up with a script which he could shoot with a low budget which was still narratively strong, unique, provocative, and featured strong on-screen characters. He raised $18,000 from the New York State Council of the Arts. He got a $10,000 grant from the Jerome Foundation, $500 from the Brooklyn Arts and Cultural Association, and got the cast to work for deferred payments. His family also assisted the project, with his father providing the jazz score, his brother the stills photos, his sister acting, and his other brothers working as production assistants. To produce the film on the low budget, Lee had to shoot it in a very compressed period of time, 12 days to be exact. He accommodated for this in the script by only using limited locations, which were easily accessible, such as an apartment, a park, and a house. DP Ernest Dickerson, Lee's classmate at Tisch, came on board to shoot the film. Lee's experimentation with mixing different mediums began on this project. The film used archival still photographs, Super 16 black and white, and one segment in 35mm color. Dickerson photographed the film with an Arriflex 16SR on spherical lenses, including a zoom. They took a visually bold approach to shooting the film, using a mixture of forms, from a handheld verite camera to stylized breakings of the fourth wall, traditional cinematic compositions, and 2 camera interviews. Likewise, Dickerson used a mix of naturalistic lighting with unrealistic, moody, low-key lighting. In what would form part of the DP and director's visual style when working together, they used wide-angle lenses for close-ups of characters in the street, mixed with tight textural detail shots. After production ended, he managed to secure the remainder of the $175,000 budget for post-production after a rough-cut screening at NYU. She's Gotta Have It proved to be a great first feature for Lee, which showcased his strong storytelling ability through a bold visual style, photographed in mixed mediums, which made $8.5 million. Lee successfully made the low-budget film by getting initial financing from film funds, deferring payment on actors, writing a contained story with few locations, without expensive set pieces, and shooting in the lower cost 16mm black and white medium. This video is sponsored by Audiio. Audiio is a platform which provides top quality music for commercial use, specifically for filmmakers or content creators, as half of filmmaking is sound. In fact, the music which I used for this very video was chosen from their online library. This library includes a large selection of tracks as well as sound effects, which can easily be browsed through based on genre, mood, duration, and other categories, making finding the right song as easy as possible. By signing up to their all-inclusive Audiio Pro subscription, filmmakers can gain access to a library of unlimited music and SFX, which can be used on any video platform, from YouTube all the way up to broadcast TV, without breaking the bank. All downloads come with a perpetual license, meaning that any content you use can be used forever. This simplifies the process so that you can focus on finding the perfect music for your project. Subscribe to Audiio Pro using the link in the description. With new music added daily, from a diverse selection of top-tier musicians. Use Audiio to elevate the sound of your videos. For his third feature, Do the Right Thing, he managed to raise a larger $6 million budget. What gave me more confidence was the simple fact that I'd done 2 feature films already. Each one was a progression, I felt, in getting to where I needed to be as a director. The script was larger in scale, featuring more costly set pieces and cast members than She's Gotta Have It. It started because of the whole Howard Beach incident. I wanted to do something to address that, and racism. I knew I wanted the film to take place in one day, which would be the hottest day in the summer, and I wanted to reflect the racial climate of New York City at the time. The day would get longer and hotter and things would escalate until they exploded. Ernest Dickerson was again brought on to photograph the project and was tasked with visually portraying this build-up and heat. To do this, he decided to use color, both in collaboration with the production and costume designer, and in the color temperature of the lighting. I did a lot of research on the psychology of color and worked on a controlled palette that pretty much stayed in the warm range. Yellows, red, earth tones, ambers, and tried to stay away from blues and greens, which have a cooling effect. For interiors, he used strong lighting fixtures aimed directly at the scene without much diffusion. This created hard lines of shadow, which he would cut with flags, black textiles which blocked light, to shape the areas of light and dark into different sections. Using hard light amplified the feeling of the sun's strength. Certain interiors also looked like he used gels in front of his lights, such as a CTS or straw, or CTO or orange, to enhance the warmth of the light. Dickerson also used other tricks, such as putting a butane lighter underneath the lens to produce a heat wave effect. As the majority of the scenes take place as exteriors in a single day of the story, his biggest lighting challenge was to maintain continuity over the length of the 8-week production. To do this, they found a location which ran north-south. As the sun travels from east to west, it meant that one side of the street would always be in the shade. That meant that if they had full sun, they could shoot on the shaded side of the street, which could be cut seamlessly with other days when the weather was cloudy. Lee carried over some of the bold formal choices from She's Gotta Have It, such as the centrally framed, wide-angle, 2-camera portraits, and introduced some new, strong visual decisions such as using Dutch or canted angles. This is where a camera is set at an angle on its roll axis so that the horizon line becomes skew instead of being straight. By breaking framing norms, this angle introduces a feeling of visual anxiety which feeds into the building tension in the story. Although Spike Lee experimented with the form of filmmaking, Do the Right Thing maintained the same visual medium. It was shot with Arriflex cameras and lenses, the BL4 and super speeds, from the looks of the behind-the-scenes photos. The film stock, which I'm guessing was mainly Kodak 5247, a favorite of Dickerson's, is punchy and saturated, which brings out the strong color palette. So Do the Right Thing was accomplished on a higher $6 million budget by casting a broader range of actors, shooting in 35mm color over an 8-week period, with one large set piece and a full crew with 2 camera teams, while still limiting the locations to one specific street. After producing many movies in the medium budget range through major studios and production companies, Lee decided to do his first film with a streaming service, Netflix. For this genre-blending Vietnam War drama film, a production budget of between $35 million and $45 million was raised, making it one of Lee's most expensive films. The project started as a spec script about Vietnam veterans, which was initially developed by director Oliver Stone for 2 years before he dropped out. A year later, Lee was pitched the script. He liked parts of the story and brought on co-writer Kevin Wilmot, who he adapted the script with and changed the characters to African Americans. This ambitious script had a long running time, complex action sequences, and large set design builds. Production took place over 3 months, with scenes in Ho Chi Minh City and the bulk of production in Bangkok and Chiang Mai in Thailand, which is a well-established film industry. Lee and cinematographer Newton Thomas Siegel, spent weeks scouting various jungle locations, which were chosen to become more and more visually claustrophobic as the film progressed. There were many large set builds required, such as one where a large plane wreckage set was built, or the final temple location, which took a crew 2 months to construct from wood and styrofoam. An aspect of the cinematography which immediately stands out in the film is Lee's use of different mediums and aspect ratios to reflect different time periods, locations, and feelings. Siegel shot the city scenes digitally on the Alexa LF with Arri DNA lenses, which are cropped to a 2.39:1 aspect ratio. The scenes in the jungle were also shot digitally, but in the taller 16:9 aspect ratio. I had the idea that because it's a Netflix show, what we call the envelope of the show or the packaging of the show is basically the 16:9 format. By treating the jungle that way, actually we were opening up the frame, so the frame is letterboxed 239:1 when you're in Ho Chi Minh City, and then literally opens up to the jungle. The jungle becomes this huge canopy surrounding these guys, enveloping this group. For flashback sequences, he used 16mm color reversal Kodak Ektachrome film. Siegel found the punchy colors of Ektachrome the closest representation to what old Vietnam newsreel footage looked like. As color reversal film has less dynamic range than color negative, Siegel rated the 100 daylight stock at 80 ASA and used large reflectors and textiles to limit contrast and fill in the shadows with extra light, so that more detail could be maintained. The color palette of Ektachrome is very specific, with a striking vibrancy. Along with its grain structure, it's a very hard thing to reproduce in post, so it provided a great aesthetic connection to the past, at the same time delivering a contrast to the contemporary footage, which we shot digitally. He shot 16mm on an Arriflex 416 with lenses from the period, Zeiss super speeds, and a Canon 11:165 zoom. Additionally, the film included Super 8 travelogue footage shot on a Canon camera by one of the actors and included segments of stock footage. Along with mixing mediums, the film also carried over other trademark Spike Lee visual traits, such as using what's been referred to as a double dolly shot. This is where characters are placed on a platform on the dolly with the camera, or on a second dolly which tracks backwards at the same speed, giving a surreal feeling that the actors are floating along with the camera. The Five Bloods therefore used its budget to fund a 3-month production with large set builds, action sequences, remote production locations, and a large cast, which was photographed on various mediums, including the higher cost large format medium, along with the capturing and processing of film stock. What these 3 case studies show is that Lee took an approach of progression to his career, where the size of the films he made increased in relation to him gaining more experience. Lee excelled by never shying away from making bold filmmaking decisions, especially when it came to his use of form and style, by allowing the stories he directs to be supported by distinct photographic choices. He's created his own trademark style, which makes it easy to identify a Spike Lee joint. Thanks for getting to the end of this video. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. If you have any comments, let me know below. Until next time, thanks for watching and goodbye.